Welcome to the Codeplay Culture podcast, where we discuss tech, gaming, health, and the world around us.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us once again. Rui and Logan. Today we're going to be talking about the interesting topic of the science of binge consumption, watching movies, TV, games, phone, the psychological and sociological effects of binge watching, and our experience and what we've seen in the industry, and what you guys are probably all going through as you have winter, as we're post COVID. It's just more and more of that single point of binging, things partially due to Netflix and all these other streaming services that makes it super easy for us to binge the heck out of stuff, and we love it. But anyhow, Rui, how are you today? What's going on, my dude?
Not much, man. I'm doing well. Just the same old, man, slugging away and trying to get through each day. But yeah, just plugging away, literally. But yeah, man, binge watching. That's our topic for today. And right off the bat, I can tell you, man, binge watching is super cool. I just finished watching a show called, I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Lost, where these crazy people, I don't want to tell you what happens at the end, but anyways, they crash on an island and they're stuck there and they can't get off, or they don't want to get off. Some people do. They got to press a big red button every 2 hours or 16 hours. I can't remember, but yeah, awesome show to binge watch, just in case anybody's looking for recommendations.
Yeah, that was an awesome one. Like, my wife and I definitely binged watched the heck out of that, and that was pre Netflix in Canada. Like USA had Netflix, but we must have torrented or Pirate Bay, LimeWire, all of that stuff, just to be able to get it through. We ended up purchasing all of the seasons after, from Walmart in the DVD boxes, which they've never been unshrink wrapped, but that's how we justified the purchase. I'm not sure if you do that sometimes, where you will
I do
use it like, okay, we'll torrent it, and then if we really do like it, we will definitely buy it. My wife and I are definitely not a pirate, like straight away, no matter what. If we do find the content amazing, we will purchase it, or at least send something to the artist or creator, because I think some of the services are really lacking that demo or try it before you buy it. So that's
it's like the Ghibli stuff, right? You don't want to pirate that stuff. You want to own in its box with the artwork and all the goodies that come with it. But back to the binge watching. I couldn't sleep after binge watching that show. I have to tell you, man. I had dreams about it and nightmares about it, and you want to watch the whole thing in one sitting, but you can't. There's like 5 seasons or something, right? So yeah, man, I found myself thinking about it at night, and for some bizarre reason, I was losing sleep over the episodes and what was coming next, right? So it definitely had some kind of adverse effects that I didn't anticipate, and which is, I suppose, it's one of the downfalls of binge watching that I particularly don't enjoy.
So would you say like your sleep was it the same amount of hours? Was it shorter? Was it less deep? Like, what was affected in particular?
I don't really know, but I know it was disrupted somehow. Maybe on a subconscious level, but it was disrupted.
Did you wake up feeling refreshed or not?
Probably not. I think when I binge watch anything, or even binge play, I don't think I wake up feeling refreshed. It seeps into my psyche somehow, and it just sits there and festers. So at some point, I have to eliminate all that and reset myself and pick up a book and read it. Spend time away from screens and just kind of center myself.
Right. A lot of people like yourself, myself, know the benefit of not doing all those pre-habitual tendencies, like overconsumption of media in any forms. And I'm pro meditation, obviously, but not in the traditional sit there with your eyes closed saying Om level of meditation, because quite
Yeah.
honestly, meditation has a negative sociological connotation these days. At least when you say it, you think of a Buddhist monk sitting there all alone. It's like, oh, you do that kind of thing, right? But it's more about, hey,
Turn
we
into
have
a
a
cocoon.
yeah, yeah, and become a mental butterfly, and then you're
Yeah.
enlightened, and then happily ever after. But
Yeah.
honestly, there's so much going on, noises, things that are seeking to grab your attention. Just
Hmm.
sitting in a room quiet for 20
Yes.
minutes without content is freeing. At first, it's uh, so boring and it's painful. But then if
It
you
is.
just kind of like not zone out and be nothing, just kind of sit there and just be the, having no intention,
Yeah.
sometimes is essentially probably what sleep is doing. You're not,
Right.
seek. There's obviously some other things going on there, but I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people know how important it is to not consume, right?
Hmm.
Content, any mental food, whether you are what you eat. So if you watch a lot of
Right.
murder shows, you're going to dream about murder stuff, right? Or have
Hmm.
nightmares, right? If you watch a lot of whatever, so you are what you eat in terms of what you think about.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like it's
Well,
really important. Like, what do you do to like really to like just cut like you mentioned reading, but what else do
yes.
you?
So reading and sitting in silence, but not so much in silence. Like, yeah, I go to church on Sundays, so that would be where that's your time to reflect and just be silent and not speak. But the thing is, what I find personally is that at some point in my life, I may have been afraid to be alone with my own self. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people do have background noise just so they're not alone with themselves and their thoughts.
Hmm.
Right? It's almost like a fear of themselves that they have to always be inundated by everything else except their own thoughts, right? So they try to push themselves or put themselves in a little box and just surround themselves with this is just an assumption. I don't know if that's exactly
Yeah.
how it is,
Yeah, that
but
makes
could have
sense.
been just
It's that
yeah. So
whole
yeah,
becoming and being thing where you're like, you're thinking about or you're mentally responding to things, and you get used to that, as opposed to like taking the time to like really get deep down and like feel like like essentially who you are as a human being,
yes,
and
yeah.
take that
Self
time to
reflection is
yeah.
such an asset that, and it's a skill people should develop, right? And it's amazing, man. It's incredible. When you self-reflect, you can correct. You can self-correct, and
Mhm.
when you don't self-correct is when things go astray or things go awry, right? You definitely need a self-correct mechanism in your body, and I think silence is that mechanism.
Yeah, there was one of my favorite books from Eckhart Tolle was Stillness Speaks, where he talks about
Yeah.
how, stillness is pretty loud in terms of what
Hmm.
it offers humanity, but due
Oh yeah.
to its uncaptivating pop up ad level of marketing, it's
Right.
not very cool.
Hmm.
It's not TikTok. Like there wouldn't be an app called Silence and it does nothing, right?
No.
That's not
No.
trendy. But yeah, there is this whole like when you're in day-to-day life, you get emails, you get whatever, or when you're watching or binge watching stuff, you're consciously paying attention, your mind is responding to stimuli outside, and it's
Yeah.
going back and forth, whereas that's kind of like a more like a mental back and forth, where what we're talking about is the opposite of that, or the cleansing of not having over consuming media, is just this whole like now, as in the present moment, when nothing
Hmm.
is moving, nothing is changing.
Yeah.
There's no need to respond to any of that. It's just currently here now. It's like peaceful.
Yeah.
And not only is it externally, but when you realize that calmness and peace is already and has already always been inside you, but
Right.
you've just been kind of not ignoring it. You've just been so fixated on becoming and being and actioning and doing,
Hmm.
then you kind of almost don't hear it, or you don't tap into it.
Yeah.
But it's extremely refreshing and peaceful to like completely cut out mental stuff. Like even when you're driving, like do you ever if you've had a long day and you're kind of tired, do you ever like drive and like turn off everything and just like focus on the road? Or like, do you go for like nature walks, or like what are some other kind of, I guess, letting go opportunities for people that are, mentally
Yeah.
drained from content?
Yeah, I think just for sure reading would be one of them, and going for walks. But as I pointed out, like self reflection, right? So driving, I remember I used to be not such an aggressive. I used to be a bit of an aggressive driver with some road rage. Everybody has a little bit of road rage in them, but when you can get home and sit and think about that for a moment, why? Why would I do that? And just self reflect, and then self correct that action. So next time, you don't have to give somebody the finger. You don't have to throw your dirty diapers out the window on somebody's hood, right? You can just not do that and just go about your day, and and be happy, right? There's no need to.
Yep.
It's one of those things, right? You see something wrong, you fix it. But yeah, man, binge watching, you need to. I honestly feel that disconnecting is the key, man. Disconnecting. On
Mhm.
that note, I gotta go. See ya. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's perfect. But that is partially true. Like what you did recently, I copied, and it
Mhm.
has been very fruitful. And maybe you can talk about what you did with, you know, phone notifications, all that stuff during like a 9 to 5 level of, you know,
Yeah, no, for
regular
sure. I leave
scheduled
my
hours.
phone. Yeah, I leave my phone on my desk, and I don't look at it until 5, 6, maybe 7 o'clock p.m. Yeah, I don't have an urge to pick it up and look at it. Although I used to a lot. Every couple of minutes, I was looking at my phone. For some bizarre reason, I would just look at it. It wasn't even ringing or anything. No notifications. I
Hmm.
just had to look through posts and stuff, right?
Right.
But I feel like we're all in that predicament
Yeah.
at this point in the timeline of humanity. We're all in that
The
together.
zombie,
We're all
the
in
zo-
together, man.
the dopamine zombies, where you're like,
Yeah,
I'm picking this up. I don't know why I am, but yeah, I'm gonna go through these apps, because actually it's not even like that. It's like pick up, um, tap this, scroll to this, next one,
yeah,
tap this, scroll to this, and then when you get to the end of that, you kind of repeat the process, at least for me,
yeah.
and then you keep up, and then at a certain point, your mindfulness kicks in, and you're like, what are you doing?
This
Right?
is insane.
This is insane. And you put it down. And so apparently, Andrew Huberman's one is my favorite, I guess, um, scientists or doctors that have a lot of great YouTube content. He works a lot with, athletes and even skateboarders and all that stuff. Grew up in
Mhm.
that kind of, he's like a professor at Stanford, but he's like everywhere on YouTube these days. But
Yeah,
he was talking about how, um, you know, once if you actually take, let's say, a 1 week break from binge social media or
yeah.
binging your favorite episode, let's say Lost, you
Hmm.
binged the first 2 seasons. If you took like a 1 month off and then you
Yeah.
then binged another season, that season 3 or that social media consumption at that point feels so tremendously good, because what
Hmm.
we're trying to do when we pick it up as a zombie, according to the research and stuff like from him and his team and all of these studies, is that you're trying to feel that same way you first felt when you had it, and you're trying to
Right.
get back to that, but you never can, because your dopamine levels are so, they have such a high baseline threshold, meaning that in
Hmm.
order for you to reach that, you now have to have like even more amazing content. So the only way to reset that is, like you said, to completely unplug, and then you can come back
Yeah.
to it, and in a couple of weeks, and then the good news is they do reset and you can get back to it. But people will probably have feelings of increased loneliness, depression, anxiety, all of this stuff, like if they
Hmm.
continue to binge consume, right?
Yeah. And the problem too is somebody's having emotional issues, right? It may help them to binge watch because, I mean, you do create an emotional attachment to characters and TV shows, and there are cases where, of course, this can benefit you, right? I mean, if you're lonely and you have emotional,
For
you know,
sure.
problems. There's an up and down side to all of this, right? Yeah, it's good
Mhm.
to unplug. It's good to not binge, but it may not be all that bad, right?
Yeah.
You do need that that kind of something needs to fill that gap. So if you
Yeah.
unplug, what are you gonna do? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not a big walking person. I don't love to go for walks. I do love to read, but what about people who don't love to read nor
Yeah.
go for walks? Right? They need something. And ultimately, if like television or binge watching makes you happy,
Yeah.
um, by all means, right?
For sure.
I
Yeah.
don't think at that point it would be negative in the sense, the way we're kind of portraying it as a
Yeah.
negative outlet. I think it would be okay.
Yeah, it's almost, it's like you're saying, situational based. Everyone's
Yeah.
situation is different, and it
Mhm.
could be your situation that your way of unplugging is binge watching, and maybe you have like whatever situation
Yeah.
you have, and without those levels of binge watching, or without those levels of consuming media, social, or any kind of screen related content or anything,
Mhm.
if that is basically what is brings you tons of joy and happiness,
Right.
it's not like we're saying to cut that out. We're just talking about, as a whole,
Right.
if you kind of overconsume anything, whether that's physical, like with like certain foods, negative
Absolutely.
foods, or content, like, before, I think a lot of people were looking at food separate from, screen content, right? Like,
Hmm.
what does a burger have to do with, you know watching baseball, right?
Yeah,
And it's just too much of anything might
that's
not
right.
be a good thing.
Yeah.
However, yeah, like if it's going to be the difference of extreme unhappiness versus extreme happiness, for sure you don't want to take away anything that is going to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
um
It's definitely situational.
yeah,
Yeah.
so every situation is different for everyone, given their um you know whatever they're going through in life as well. Like, if I personally was working a job that I, maybe I really didn't like, or I had something tragic that happened in my life, or there was like a history of like mental dysfunction genetically or whatever, everyone's
Hmm.
situation could be completely different, and you kind of just have
Right.
to take it with a grain of salt of, our experience and what we're seeing in the,
For sure. I
industry
mean,
and
yeah.
market when it comes to that.
I mean, in a perfect world, optimally, we want to all disconnect and just be out there. But yeah, world is not a perfect place and never will be. So yeah, that's just how it is, right?
Yeah. There's also the other thing of, okay, so let's say, for the people that just, love binge watching, Netflix and all that stuff, and that is the main thing they look forward to when they get home. And so, they get home from work. Let's say they had an office desk job, and they don't work remotely, or they do hybrid. They get home, they just binge for whatever, 5 or 6 hours, and go to bed maybe a couple days a week. Other days, sitting watching other screens. Just increasing your, physical activity
Hmm.
on those days. Whether, like, what I started doing personally is, like, as I have a treadmill underneath my desk, and
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm playing games or watching YouTube, I'll be on it, and I have like armrests, so I'm literally like watching videos like how I shouldn't watch YouTube
Yeah.
on YouTube, and I'm like, sweating beads. So, but I
Hmm.
get off the treadmill and I'm like, I feel incredible.
Yeah.
Compared to like if I was sitting, and like, posture and all that stuff is, my wife sent me this great, Instagram, um, how you get audio for reels.
Yeah.
But I'll just see if I can play this for you. And it's a kid that goes up to, I guess, his dad. And this
Hmm.
is what he says, like, uncandidly. And my wife's like, you should use this for a skateboarding video, but let's see if I can play. Isn't good for your heart. So come look for bugs with me. You need to move around a lot. Why? Because sitting isn't even good for your heart. Sitting around isn't good for your. So that's like the kid that's just wants to get his dad to come look for bugs with them and play.
Yeah.
And sometimes, not sometimes, I feel like majority of the times, the kids know more than we do. They kind of come, they
Yeah.
kind of get plopped out, and they're like, "What's with all these people looking at these screens?" I, like they're
Yep.
smarter than us for many reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
But
sure. That's pretty amazing, man.
yeah, it's
I know my
like when
son
I
will grab me sometimes and just try to, not sometimes, like all the time,
yeah
try to kick me off my chair. He literally jumps on the back of my chair where there's a little gap and he starts to like push down with his legs. Ultimately, he's just kicking my ass off the chair.
yeah,
And yeah, he just does that all the time.
you know what?
But
You
yeah,
should
man,
train him to do
they're in
like
on
some
something.
yeah, like because the new version of the iPhone trumps the last one. They're just a better version of you,
Yeah,
because of
yeah, for sure.
evolution and all that.
Mhm.
So like you should just train him to do like kung fu, and then like you'll just live stream like some YouTube thing where he comes and like tries to kick you out of your chair, and you're like going cha cha cha, and like doing these blocks and stuff. It's like every couple hours, right? And
Yeah,
then look, you get sweaty, he gets sweaty, you guys are happy, then you can go
yeah.
back to like coding PHP.
Yeah,
Oh
man.
man.
So back to the topic at hand. Do you think that binge watching television, keep calling it television. Does anybody even know what television means? You keep
Yeah.
binge watching Netflix and stuff, right? Um, do you think it has the same effects as as binge playing a video game?
No, no, it doesn't. Like from the research that I've seen from people that have like
Hmm.
looked at the difference between video games and TV, and one of the reasons mainly is because of the one is active and one is passive. Like
Right,
one gets a little bit more of a dopaminergic response when you press the trigger in Halo to shoot like an alien
right, right.
versus when you're just watching. Watching
Hmm.
is more passive, like reading is, but reading's
Hmm.
different because you're not seeing so much stimula popping up, right, to hold your
Right.
attention, but you're also, it's active, meaning you're imagining it, right? But that
Yeah.
actual imagination process is quite like, at least for me, it makes me very tired and it gets me like ready for bed. But they do say
Hmm.
that, if you wanted to rank those three things, like binging TV shows, video games, and reading before bed, uh, if you do your research online, it will say that reading is obviously number one to do before bed. You could
Yeah.
then watch shows before bed, and then lastly would be gaming before bed.
Hmm.
But for
Right.
sleep optimization, I've tried things where I cut out all light, right, and I
Hmm.
just listen to podcasts, and um, that didn't seem to, just listening seemed to be just as stimulating as watching.
Yes.
So
Same for me.
even if you cut out, so I would say like reading with like a little nightlight or something like that is really helpful right before bed. um,
Yeah.
I can tell you what doesn't work for that is binging like nonstop exercise right up to the point when you go to
Hmm.
bed, because you get a lot of energy from
Right.
like exercise. So um, yeah, I really don't have like any good like examples of, hey, I've cut out this type of binging and this is the um, positive effect I've gotten on sleep, mental health,
Yeah.
mood, all that stuff. But what, I don't know. What about you? Like,
I mean, it could vary from person to person,
yeah,
but for me, definitely binge watching TV has an effect on me at night in terms of sleeping. It doesn't. It just for some reason it just sits in my mind longer, or I don't know, just kind of infests my mind more than a video game would. Yeah, video games are a
yeah,
lot more. I don't know what it is, man. I could play a game for hours and hours. I'm talking by hours. I mean like 6 to 8 hours.
yeah.
If I do that with a TV show, I will definitely have that in my mind at night.
Mm,
But with video games, it does not affect me in that way. I don't know
interesting.
what it is,
I
man.
want, Yeah, I'm the same way with video games. Even though the studies show that it's the opposite, like it's better for your sleep to not play them. I feel like for
Hmm.
me to get to the point that a video game binging is affecting my sleep, I've
Yeah.
had it happen multiple times throughout my life. But it was when I was like, playing it so much that it not only affected my sleep, to the point where I was tired when I woke up. It was affecting my daily life, meaning I would get into the car, and
Yeah.
instead of like, backing out the car, I would be thinking, oh, before I do that, I have to move my troops from here to there. Like I have to select my troops to move them to here.
Dude,
And then
what
I
were you
would,
playing?
and then, like Command and Conquer. This is
Nice.
like, like I think it was 18 or something like that. Just like playing the heck out of that. And I'm like, but like, no, that has nothing to do with driving. I was like,
Mm,
that's crazy. I'm like it's almost like a part of your mind is reserved for
yeah,
that game. Like, and it's operating all day long. Um,
it could be. You
uh,
know what? I find TV is a lot more suggestive than video games.
mm,
There's a lot more targeted targeted s- ideology.
yeah,
Targeted at the people, targeted speech,
yep,
and then you have like political statements. And then everything's just a little more suggestive. Not a little more. I take that back.
yeah,
Everything is a lot more suggestive in TV and
for sure.
and game and movies and television. Everything's more suggestive, and in video games, it's not the case, right? Like you play a game like World of Warcraft, it's an imaginary world
Hmm.
where everybody's just running around doing their stuff, you know, doing quests and just raids and whatever.
Hmm.
Nothing's really as suggestive. There's no political statements. There's
Yeah.
no this. There's no that. It's a little more innocent, I have to say.
Yes.
That's probably why. And the amount of research that goes into this suggestive, I guess suggestive thinking or suggestive development in TV,
Hmm.
they probably spend like millions on market research on how to target the average male brain between this age and that age, or the
Yep.
average old person to get them to vote this way, or the average, Joe Blow to get them to buy our shaving cream, whatever. I'm just giving an example, but
Yep.
games are not that suggestive.
Yeah. That I guess we're lucky that they're not, because maybe
We're
they're
so
not
lucky, man.
because they're not as widespread as TV, because anyone
And
could
that's the
sit in front
beauty.
of, and I hope it doesn't. I almost hope it doesn't get any more popular than it does, because then it would just become this. Well, actually, it kind of did when like iPhones came out, and like I was saying that other story about how the friend of mine's like, "Yeah, I'm a gamer now. I play Candy Crush," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're not a gamer. You just like casinos or whatever it is."
Yeah,
Because those games were like that. It didn't really kill the gaming industry. It just kind of like shook it a bit, and then people realized, no, 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 that's not what we want. And to this
right.
day, like my wife and I won't buy the kids or download the kids free iPad games. The iPads are like strictly like they're locked with a code.
Hmm.
They're strictly for school educational purposes. If they want to play a game, we buy it. We plop down the 79 or whatever. We don't like, oh, it's a free to play game and you just got to keep on pumping in money
Right.
like a casino. None of that stuff. That is extremely toxic from
Hmm.
a mental health perspective for these kids,
Yeah,
because they're made to be super addictive instead of just fun and wholesome, like a Nintendo game or whatever.
that's right.
Um, yeah, like
Absolutely, man.
games.
Yeah,
Um,
games. Honestly, I'd prefer kids playing a nice, wholesome like Nintendo Switch game instead of
yep.
sitting and watching YouTube for like hours, right? And being
Yeah.
inundated with stuff they're not really supposed to see. Like, no, no, it's not really for me. And yeah, here I let my son play, Super Mario when he's good. I mean, he's good all the
Yep.
time, but
Yeah.
when it's reward time, yeah, Super Mario or Switch would be our go-to reward, right? But
Like
yeah,
for
man, that
the
that's how it is.
do you set limits on any of that stuff, for not
Yeah,
necessarily for your kiddos, but like for yourself, your family? Like, do you ever, like, out of nowhere, hey, it's been 30 minutes, let's just take a break? Because binge watching has this risk of, oh my gosh, it's 12 o'clock at night, where did we
yeah,
just got home?
yeah. No, I do it for my kids. I don't obviously do it for my wife because you know that would be
You're a
messed
happily
up,
married
right?
man, right?
Exactly. But no, I do it. Of course, I do it for my kids. I set limits. I'll set like a 30-minute limit for a Switch, for
Mhm.
playing Mario, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's at most like an hour. That's the most he'll do in one sitting. We'll take a break. Do some coloring, some drawing activities, and some spelling and all that good stuff, and then
Mm.
yeah, and try to
What
like
about for
avoid it. That's
coding? Like, have you heard of like Pomodoro, or I think it's like Italian for tomato. Have you heard of
no,
that
that's a kid's
technique?
coding platform, right?
It could be, but I think it has something to do with like basically every, I don't know, 45 minutes or something. You like take 5 minutes to do something. Get up, make a coffee. Get up, do some push-ups. Get up, you know, like do a backflip and scream. Whatever the
Yeah, dude.
craziness
That
is.
sounds like a mental torture. It's
Yeah,
like person. That's what they would do to you. All right, now get
dude.
up. Sleep for 5 minutes. Now get up.
Like water torture. Um,
Yeah,
where they
exactly.
keep on dripping on you. I like the idea of getting randomly dripped on, but not in this context. And I'm just
Yeah.
messing with you. But listen, um, I'm a little off the rails sometimes, but that's me. Windows 11 added this thing in the bottom right hand corner called
Yeah.
Focus. So maybe you could click your clock. That's what she said. And
I
and
can
uh,
click my
and then
clock. Yeah.
click your
Yeah.
clock, and then do you see Focus?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if you
Push.
click it, right,
Yeah.
it will set this thing, and it's essentially the Pomodoro thing. So they kind of baked in this stuff into Windows. So
Hmm.
that's how much this it's very effective, because you could get lost like right now, 30 minutes of 60 minutes, 90 minutes of coding, of Googling, of
Yeah.
YouTubing, of whatever. And they have it on Xbox too. Obviously, Microsoft, Windows, they're in, same company.
Right.
And then you just have to decide what your focus period is, what you're going to do. And,
Hmm.
you know, but essentially you should, for the most part, if you do them correctly, you should not be doing what you are doing. And
Right.
probably the most benefit would be to do something, athletic, get up and walk around, get the mail, yes, it's cold out in certain parts, but if you expose yourself to a lot of cold, you can increase your, what is called brown fat, which is the better part of the fat that's on your body that keeps you warmer, right? So exposing yourself to cold is good sometimes, even though it sucks when you feel it.
Hmm.
But yeah, like what's your cadence for like, is it like, oh, coffee cup is empty, I'm going to get up, go downstairs? Like, what do you kind of do to break it
Honestly,
up?
sometimes not even that. I break it up by completing tasks that I need to complete.
Ah,
So if I have a task
nice.
at work, no,
Yeah.
it's actually not because I was sitting at my desk for like 8 hours because that task I had to complete something,
Mm,
and I get obsessed with it. So I don't get up until that task is complete. So I just yeah. So that would be like at the 8 hour mark in that case. That would be my thing, and then I'd go and go get a coffee or whatever. It's not good, man. Not good
right.
at
So
all.
that's like a lot of people go through I go through that too. And you know what? Just talking about this now with the binging something until it's done. Okay, if we just
Yeah.
forget the media, like I'm going to sit here or stand here until it is complete, right? Or a
Yeah.
completionist level of whatever. Um,
Hmm.
and then probably when you're doing that task, it doesn't have to be programming, but let's say you make a little bit of a breakthrough, 30% complete.
Yeah.
Instead of taking that opportunity for a break, what do?
I
You
obviously.
probably continue,
Yeah.
right? Instead of
Yeah.
saying, okay, I reached a good enough point where I can take a break, you're like, no, man, I'm going to power through even more. And that's like that tunnel vision level of greed that you're like,
Yeah.
I need it, I need it, I want it.
Right.
And you can't get out of it. So, uh, in skateboarding, we call it skate greed, where you're
Hmm.
trying to get a new trick, right? And
Yeah.
you almost got it first try. It's like the trial membership for whatever. You're like, oh, the
Hmm.
trial membership ended. And dudes will spend an hour, 2 hours trying that same one over and over again. And if you ask a lot of them, they're not having fun during that process. It is mentally, physically draining, and it hurts because
Hmm.
they want to get, they're seeking that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe binging is seeking completion of a series, seeking completion of, hey, I want to know what happens at the end of season of Lost, right? I want to
Yeah.
I want to know what's next. I need to I need more, right? It's like the whole thing of more,
Right.
right? You're not satisfied with, what you
Yeah, but
have.
the thing is, yeah, like at the workplace, it's a little bit different, right? It's the pressure's a bit different as opposed to being alone and
Yeah,
binging, right? Because the
correct. Yeah.
workplace, you have tasks and you have work to do and you have to produce,
Yeah,
and you're getting paid to do to
for
accomplish
sure.
things, right? So the mentality is a bit different. You put on a different hat during that time.
It's more stressful.
It's a lot more stressful, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I close my laptop, that's it, man.
Mm.
I change. I'm completely different
Yeah.
for sure.
So like the
But
Bruce
that's
Wayne
partially
Batman thing.
100%, dude. 100% Bruce Wayne and Batman.
So the phone social media content binging thing, or like
Yeah.
binging, um one of the things, like, I was like, when you pick it up, and then you go through all these different platforms and you check notifications, whatever.
Hmm.
I've started reducing that completely, and I copied what you were doing, where I have it on do not disturb, only calls. And
Yeah.
I even implemented, this is the thing I'm most proud of. At the end of the day, I
Hmm.
will put it on a charger. I have a nice charger here in the basement, and
Yeah.
my excuse is, oh, it's on the charger. But I'm able to like spend the rest of the night without it. I don't bring it to the
Hmm.
bedroom. It's in the basement.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't have my phone. Like, I
It
forget about
feels
it.
good.
It feels
Yeah.
good. It feels like I can accomplish much more either around the house or in my life without it in my pocket. I
Absolutely,
know that
man.
sounds weird. Just the fact that something's in your pocket, like, you're going to vacuum the house more, or you're going to go for a walk more, or
Dude,
go
that something
drive.
is not a phone. It's an anchor. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's a giant anchor.
Yeah.
It's a
Maybe that's
noose
why
around
they
your neck. No, I'm just kidding.
maybe that's why they call it like I was going to say entrepreneurships, or like company or partnerships. They're all ships because they're like anchors weighing you down. But I didn't know that what for a
No,
corporation
it
or whatever.
literally is. It's like an anchor, right? This thing just
Yeah,
weighs you down. Like you
yeah,
said, man. Leave it in the basement. You just feel so light.
yeah.
Like there's like something, nothing. Remember that one movie where that one guy at the end, lady sitting on his shoulder. He's like hunched over in jail. And there's this one lady sitting on his shoulder because he had killed her, and her ghost is on his shoulder. Do you remember that? That was
Right.
freaky.
No, what was
I think
that?
it's like a Japanese horror movie. I think it was called like it wasn't The Ring. I think it was called Photograph, or it was something about this guy who takes pictures, and in every picture he sees this dead Japanese girl
Oh
this
wow.
girl that he killed.
No, I
And
was
then at
gonna
the
say
end he
1 hour
gets
photo, but no, that's not it.
wait, maybe that's what it is. Wait,
No, no, no.
let me check.
That's Robin Williams.
Ah, that's not it.
No, I think you're
Anyways,
thinking
you
of
got to watch this movie,
yeah.
man. It reminded me of Fatal Frame.
Yes,
Yeah, so the
that Fatal
and it
Frame,
was
man.
spooky, but like in the end of that movie, the weight on that guy's shoulders was that woman's ghost, and for us, it's these phones, man.
Yeah, yeah,
This is our
and that's
ghost. This is our
that's
dead woman on our shoulders.
yeah, yeah. This is
Damn it,
basically
this
like, hey,
conversation's going
why don't you?
to
No, no, no. It's, if you think about it, for people that you know are listening, that have like gotten to this point in in the pod, probably like the main takeaway is that, hey, if you're struggling with certain things, right? What has worked for Rui and I is just limiting binging of content, especially through the phones, like leaving them somewhere. I really have not felt like this thing has brought me joy in many, many years.
right.
Like, it is very amazing. Like, just me picking it up right now, it felt good, but it
Yeah.
is like a smoke and mirrors. It is like an ex-girlfriend,
Oh,
or
it
you
is,
know what I
man.
mean? It is not good. It is like
Yeah.
the worst.
The only time it brings me joy is when my wife calls me,
Yes, fair enough.
just to say that she loves me, and then obviously that brings me a ton of joy. But
Yep,
I can get that from a flip phone. I don't
for
need
sure.
this.
Yep.
That's it, man. Tomorrow. Anyways, the name of that movie is called Shutter.
Shutter. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Um, So, like, just wrapping it up here for, people again that are, listening. So over, like, all in all, what would you say of, like, making these small, minor modifications on reduction of binging content? What kind of positive impact in your life has that made since you started many of these
Mhm.
minor adjustments?
Yeah, for sure. I can easily tell you that since I started not being so connected and not binging on media, I've been able to write a children's book. I've been able to read every single day for at least a couple of hours. I've been able to write papers on like historical events in the past, and I've been able to take myself to the next level. I've leveled up, man. That's how you level up.
So your red
Yeah.
mage is now like a red knight.
No, I'm like what do you call it when you mix the red and black in Final
Um,
Fantasy? There's like
no,
red mage,
yeah,
black
yeah,
mage.
white mage and black mage are red mage. But are you talking about blue mage? Oh, you know what blue mage is, dude? It
No.
sucks the soul of other people's talents and abilities and uses it
Mhm.
against them. That is like
Is that like
that
Kirby from
that's yeah. It's like I'm gonna become a car. Like um yeah, it's like the Tesla. You can change the horn to like La Cucaracha.
Mhm.
It's just like, you know,
That's cool.
it got me thinking about that. I got to turn that off. It's quite. The kids say it's embarrassing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, so that's what I've been able to do. Just you can do a lot more. Unplug and you can do so much more in your life. Like you have no idea, man. You could just do so much. How about you? What's your
so on since I started copying like what you were doing and
mhm.
also leaving it, at night, I was making a lot of progress, and then I started substituting the phone with other screens, and I
Yeah.
caught on to that. I was like, oh my god, I was like, yeah, I don't have my phone. I'm so proud of it, but I've been watching YouTube for the past
Mhm.
2 hours. I'm like, no, I just substituted, and once I realized that and cut that out a little bit, and went into rooms and got bored, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to hang up that shelf, or I'm going to, do more around the house. I'm going to whatever it is.
Yes.
And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do these projects around the house, I might as well, like, film a YouTube video for each of them. And so since I've been implementing like what you've done, like, and this is
Mhm.
going back like when I heard it like 3 weeks ago, it's the first time in my entire life where I've able to Monday through Friday have every single day a new YouTube video coming out.
Nice.
And I've been wanting to do that for so many years. And
Mhm.
it's the first time ever. So, and I feel better. I'm sleeping
Yeah.
better, and I'm generally more happy, and not so like distracted. But
Right.
for
So
me,
so
it
I
was
mean
like life changing.
yeah, so I mean you could boil it down to you either consume or produce, and less consumption equals more production, right? And you're
Oh,
able
for
to
sure.
produce more
Yes.
with that with the less consumption. It's perfect, man.
Yes.
And I feel like
Yes. And if
yeah, I was gonna
you'll
say that a
probably
lot of
also
people should get on
produce
board
more
with that.
happy. Yes, sorry, I interrupted. Yeah, a lot of people should
That's
get on board with that. And sorry, I was just so excited I couldn't stop
no
myself.
worries,
Is
man. Go
is
ahead.
like you're almost like producing more happiness as well, right?
Yes.
Instead of consuming, I guess, or whatever. I really feel like on the producing side, you will produce more happiness versus on the consumption side,
Oh,
just
yes.
naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It's a byproduct.
ask yourself, what is your percent to consumption, uh, to production, right?
Mhm.
Not work. Forget work. Everyone has to work. Factor that
Right.
out. Just in your personal life, like what it, and if it's 90-10, what would it look like to switch that to 80-20? Just minor
Right.
things,
No, that's a
see how
great
you
point. Don't
feel.
yeah, that's a great point. Don't eliminate, but limit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
like,
great
yeah,
point.
it's like everything in small doses where,
Mhm.
maybe you didn't have to have, whatever it was. Maybe you could have, um, you know, reduced by a third of whatever. Is as
Yeah.
soon as you're conscious of it, you can make a change, and like you don't have to change for ever for the whatever. But if you change as like almost like get curious about it. Hey, if I make this small change, let's see what that affects. And then you're
Right.
like, you do that, you're like, well, that didn't do anything. Okay, so don't do it. If you were happier
That's
before,
right.
for sure. But if you made a change and you're like, but at the end of the day, don't make a change thinking that like, oh, I should make this change because it's the right thing to do. Like at the end of the day,
Mhm.
like let's say that this is the only life we get, right?
Yeah.
You probably want to do whatever you have to do to be happy, right? So,
Right.
but if there's a chance for you to explore and get curious about, is there a way to increase your happiness? Then, does it hurt to try once in a while to see if that is beneficial? Um,
Yeah.
you know, you know,
Doesn't hurt at all, man. I think it's great. And each of us has the opportunity to be happy and create and produce. Each and every
yes,
one of us has that opportunity. We just have to take it. And for that, you have to reduce your consumption. Just completely, I would say eliminate it, but it all depends on the circumstance. But definitely a reduction is a good start.
yeah. I heard this interesting thing about not North America or Western Hemisphere, but they asked a
Hmm.
bunch of different other countries, uh, Asia, Middle Eastern, of if you're depressed, right?
Hmm.
What would you do, right, in these other non North America countries? And there was a study that was done that showed a lot of them start sociologically doing nice things for other people. A
Hmm.
lot of people found that
Yes.
that created incredible happiness for themselves. And it
Yeah.
was an interesting study because they found that not a lot of like on the percent wise of North Americans versus the rest
Yeah.
of the world don't prioritize that as a way to generate happiness for themselves. And
Hmm.
that was kind of eye opening for, so like, it's kind of interesting. I feel like I try tons of different ways to be a better human friend for parent, husband, all that stuff, everyone around me.
Yeah.
But I've never experimented or thought of like, hey, let's just spend like an extra 2 hours every day and just really focus on what I can bring to everyone like I love and care about, right?
Yeah.
As a sociological experiment personally, and maybe that would maybe I could report back to our listeners of like, hey, this is what it did for me, right?
Yeah.
And I like that idea because it is probably very difficult to do when you're always focused on going to work, what you have to do, you got to go get groceries, all the stuff you have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if that would be good. It was just kind of interesting of a way that the other parts of the world generate mental
Yeah.
uh, happiness. But
And I think that's part of this whole thing is we're all kind of disconnected from one another,
yeah,
and a lot of Western societies like that, right? And which is kind of sad.
hmm
Ultimately, like we're all the same, and we all come from the same pool. That's
yeah,
why when we do something for one another, it's an automatic response to be happy, because that is just the way. That's our design, right?
yeah,
That's how you know we're all connected. When you help somebody and they're happy, you feel something, right?
yeah.
It's an automatic response. But for those that don't, it's tough, man. They've been just disconnected from their fellow humans, and it's quite sad, to be quite honest.
So next episode, we should live stream the creation of the mobile app called God Points, where you basically
Hmm.
just list everything that you did nice for anyone, where people can give you and grant you God points, but you can't spend them. You can only accumulate them. And they're not like visible as a way of showing off at all. It's only
Right?
all internal, but you know how much you have and you're happy about that. Or maybe you're not, maybe you're more ambitious, but you would like add a item, helped lady across the road. And then the,
Yeah.
the app would be like 2 God points granted. You can't spend them. It's just a way
No.
of like, focusing and prioritizing, you know, generating
Yeah,
GP.
for sure, dude. Check this out, man. And you, they can't show anybody, so you have the camera on the phone. Once you see it's not their
Yeah.
face, the screen goes dark. It's like, wait a minute, you know, it's like facial recognition. God points.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Dude,
like yeah, it's like
somebody's already developed this. So,
oh,
remember
really?
last time we were like, no, last time we were talking about somebody's going to develop
Yeah.
this app or something.
Yeah.
Last podcast, right?
Yeah, then they need to, we have like terms and conditions. If you look in the pod, if any apps or resemblance of likeness of applications developed from ideas and intellectual property from said application. It's like all these legal like loopholes.
Yeah,
It's like, oh yeah,
exactly.
so we made our millions by just like talking about these app ideas, and people went and did it, right? And it was like they thought we were joking because we were like laughing, but no,
Full
yeah,
disclaimer.
yeah, full disclosure. But
Full disclosure. Yeah, man. It
yeah,
sounds good. Yeah. Go ahead, man.
yeah. I just want to say thank you, Rui. Thank you, everyone that is listening. I think everyone out there cares a lot about happiness, friends, love, kindness, respect, having fun, and just being healthy. And these are just some tips that worked for Rui and I personally. Just wanted to thank everyone. And we'll see you next time, Rui.
Yeah. See you next time. And for those listening to this podcast, once it's done, just turn off your phone and go for a walk. See you
Thank,
later.
thanks, everyone.